is 2019, and a game from 2009 is one of the most visually impressive games of the year. It's an incredibly pleasant surprise. Kind of unexpected, official, real-time ray tracing support for Minecraft. Anyway, it's awesome, it's demo-worthy, it's possibly the best example of RTX. I was able to grab some great footage, some awesome gameplay, and this video is going to show you all of the coolest things that they're doing with RTX in Minecraft. There's some genuinely mind-blowing stuff. Also, if you wonder later on why my mic doesn't sound that great, I made most of this video while I was in Cologne, Germany for Gamescom, which is one of the most crowded places you could ever be. Seriously, the crowds here put E3 to shame. I'm pretty sure the 9th layer of hell is warmed by Gamescom body heat alone. Anyway, while I was in Germany for Gamescom, Nvidia invited me to play some new games with RTX, like Watch Dogs Legion, Control, Modern Warfare, and of course, Minecraft. I gotta say, I was really impressed with Modern Warfare. This is exactly what Call of Duty needs in my opinion. The gunplay was really visceral, the sound design was biting, and the visuals are fantastic. It has a really nice, realistic, subtle implementation of RTX. It's not a gimmick, it's just exactly the realism it needs to be. I loved it. And then I played Minecraft, which just came straight out of left field like Rocky Balboa. It's a real underdog. It's a game from 2009, a game I wouldn't have expected to be one of the best examples of RTX. And yet here we are. I played for about 30 minutes and they gave us 2 worlds to explore, normal vanilla Minecraft and a world with realistic high-resolution textures that take full advantage of ray tracing. Plus, they built some really cool rooms that do an excellent job of demonstrating all the things real-time ray tracing does that you may not consciously notice, but your brain does. Which is really important because not all the effects jump out at you like light shafts, but the subtle effects are every bit as important and they're doing some truly impressive things. Some of you might be thinking, what's the difference between this and a shader pack? Well, this is simulated. It's not emulated. It's not approximated. The light shafts are actually physical. There's atmospheric density. Basically, they got as close as they could to the real properties of lighting and shadows and reflections. And you're gonna see some pretty impressive, mind-blowing stuff. At the end of this video, I'll have some no-commentary gameplay, but we've got some important stuff to talk about first. Minecraft with RTX is only available on the Bedrock Windows 10 version of the game, which runs better than Java but doesn't have as many mods. Additionally, you'll need an RTX-capable graphics card to run this, and RTX support for Minecraft is set to release sometime next year. Of course, the first thing you'll notice are the realistic lighting and shadows, and when you turn RTX off, the difference is so stark. It looks like it's exaggerated, but it's not. This is a game that I've played for the past 8 years, and somehow, when I kept switching RTX off, in contrast, it looked much flatter than how my mind remembers Minecraft looking. It really does look exaggerated. It's so easy to look at all this and take it for granted, or to really only register the obvious things like the light shafts or the shadows, but then you're missing things like realistic metal or indirect lighting. But indirect lighting, the light that you see flowing in, isn't from direct light, like the sun isn't shining on it. It's indirect lighting from the sky. And things like indirect lighting are incredibly important for visual fidelity, and it's just the fact that all of this is physical. Like these light shafts, this is atmospheric density. What they're doing is realistically simulating the properties of light and reflections, and how they physically work instead of approximating how they work. So because of that atmospheric density, not only do you have light shafts, but emissive blocks like lava, which now glow realistically, casting off a larger amount of light, have this nice effect where they're actually catching that density. And when these light shafts hit foliage, they're actually affected by it, which is really cool. Personally, I think this is a beautiful effect. Some people I've seen have said it's too strong and it needs to be more subtle, but this is an alpha build, so I have no doubt that stuff is going to be adjusted. Apparently, they've only been working on this for a couple of months. It's not finished. They're planning on implementing different things that aren't currently in the build that I'm playing, like caustic effects, which will play very nicely with this lighting system, like hitting water, for instance. I'm not sure if it'll affect glass as well, but it's certainly possible. The atmospheric density just adds such a rich depth to everything around you. Path tracing, ray tracing, this is something that's going to be the future of gaming graphics, so it's nice to finally see these first steps towards this becoming the standard. this is just one time of day, so what I really want to see is the dynamic day-night cycle, which would be so cool. Unfortunately, they didn't have torches or lanterns in this build, so I wasn't able to walk around and look at the dynamic lighting with that, but I would imagine that exploring caves and mine shafts would be so cool, especially seeing a glint of diamond in the distance catching off of the light of your torch. And that brings us to materials. Each material reacts to light as you would expect. Diamonds can catch light, various types of stone and rock are appropriately coarse and gritty. These high-resolution textures can carry quite a lot of detail, and how they're affected by the light is part of what is so impressive about them. Gold isn't just yellow anymore, it has specular highlights and soft reflections, different from that of emeralds, for example. Each material is different from one another. Water has reflections and refractions, which look incredible, and I would say that it's one of the biggest differences, but I would also say that about the shadows and the lighting. But it does look fantastic, even without the caustic effects, which are supposed to be coming. And not only is there reflections on the water, but also on the surfaces beneath the water, so there's different layers going on here in everything that you're seeing, and again, this is all simulated, it's not approximated or emulated, it's rendered as realistically as they can make it. So reflections that you see are actually reflecting what is in the world around you, and even mobs will be reflected. That's what made this mirror room that they made so confusing. Even with the diffusion that they added on the material of the mirrored surfaces, it was still really confusing walking around in that room. There's a lot going on beyond what's immediately obvious, which is what I like about ray tracing. It's not always super apparent to the point of being a gimmick. You may not always consciously notice it, but your brain does, and it all leads to a more cohesive image because things like lighting and shadows are simulated and not approximated. So the reflections of wood planks are different than that of water, glass, or gold. The reflections in wood are incredibly diffused and the grain even catches the light, and this even differs between different textures of wood. Here's where we start getting really subtle and really cool. The devil is in the details. Light isn't very binary. In real life, when light hits a surface, some of that light is reflected off of the surface, carrying color hues with it. Thanks to real-time ray tracing and path tracing, the same thing happens here. You can see some of the sun's light bouncing off of the carpet and carrying its color hues onto the wood and the walls. RTX is also capable of indirect lighting, which is light bouncing from surfaces to reach areas that light isn't directly touching. Combine all that with color mixing, which is wonderfully realized, and they built this really cool little example to show it off. There's so much that modders could do with this beyond realistic textures. I'm looking forward to crazy configurations that really play with the technology. There's also per pixel lighting, which I forgot to mention, which is really cool. There's so many cool things that they're doing here. It's like a showcase. It's like a tech demo, but it's completely 100% playable. Overall, it's very impressive when you're actually walking around the world, when you're seeing all of this in real time, controlling it, playing in the game. It's stunning. The juxtaposition of realism that ray tracing brings to the abstract cuboid world is surprisingly beautiful, and I think that they complement each other very well. And although it already looks great, this is just an alpha, so I'm really interested to see how they change it, tweak it, improve it. I also want to see dynamic lighting from a lantern and cloud cover in different forms of weather. Regardless, ray tracing is 100% the future of gaming graphics, and I'm happy that we're taking the first steps to all of this becoming more standard. I'm going to leave you with some no commentary gameplay so you can focus on the visuals, but if you'd like to see more RTX videos like this, subscribe to my channel and check out my video on Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, or Metro Exodus in the cards. Thanks for watching, and thanks to Nvidia and Microsoft for letting me play this early. Until next time, take care.